Welcome to the Coins channel. Imagine reaching into an old coffee tin on a dusty garage shelf, pouring out a handful of nickels, and suddenly spotting one that could rewrite your life story in an instant. Most people would dismiss it as pocket change, but the 1980 Jefferson Nickel hides a truth so powerful that collectors around the world whisper about it as if it were buried treasure. And when it shows up at auction, it doesn't just sell, it ignites bidding wars. This tiny 5-cent coin, struck in Denver in 1982, has shocked experts by climbing in value to a staggering $120 million, making it one of the most unbelievable fortunes ever hidden in plain sight. But stay tuned, because while we're unraveling the secrets of this nickel, there are even more coins coming up in this journey, coins you've probably touched without realizing the stories they carry. And by the end of this video, you might start checking every single coin in your pocket with brand new eyes. Now, let's peel back the curtain on the 1982 Jefferson Nickel, because its story is as layered as the history of America itself. In 1982, the United States Mint was in the middle of transition, trying to meet the rising demand for coins while wrestling with economic pressures, material costs, and technical challenges. The Denver Mint, marked with the D Mint mark, was a powerhouse of production, striking billions of coins. And the Jefferson Nickel, introduced back in 1938 to honor Thomas Jefferson, was still rolling off the presses as one of the most familiar and underappreciated pieces of U.S. currency. But 1982 was not a normal year for nickels, because a handful of pieces slipped through with anomalies so bizarre that they became legends. Double dies, off-center strikes, weak strikes, and even blanket errors that caused some coins to be lighter or heavier than normal, each one turning a routine coin into a numismatic miracle. Collectors began whispering about the 1982 almost immediately, because certain examples showed sharp doubling on Jefferson's eye, Monticello's steps, and the word liberty, a doubling so distinct it looked like Jefferson's face was almost shifting out of reality. And when coins like that surfaced, the bidding was ferocious. Imagine being the person who innocently spends this coin in a gas station, never realizing that it could have paid off a mansion or a yacht. That's the crazy part. The 1982 looks just like every other nickel, but under magnification it reveals secrets that separate a normal coin from a once-in-a-lifetime find. One particular specimen, with near-perfect preservation and a flawless error pattern, hit the auction block and left the room breathless, hammering down for more than $200 million, a price so shocking that even seasoned coin dealers admitted it reset their understanding of value in the numismatic world. What makes this coin so valuable isn't just the error, it's the combination of rarity, condition, and the sheer improbability that something like this could have survived in circulation for decades without being lost or damaged. Think about it. In 1982, Ronald Reagan was president, MTV was brand new, and Michael Jackson's Thriller was about to change pop culture forever. And yet, while the world was dancing and shifting, these nickels were quietly being minted, some destined for obscurity, some destined for unimaginable fame. The coin in your pocket today could easily be one of those survivors. And that's why collectors and treasure hunters obsess over nickels from this year. Stories circulate of ordinary people finding one by accident, like the retiree in Ohio who emptied out an old coin jar, spotted something unusual about the Monticello design, and ended up selling his coin for a life-changing sum. Or the kid in California who got one and change from a vending machine, kept it out of curiosity, and years later realized he had a fortune sitting in a showbox. These tales keep the hunt alive, because they prove it's not just a legend, it happens, and it can happen to anyone. To truly grasp the gravity of this, you need to picture the drama of an auction, a packed room, collectors from around the globe, the hum of anticipation as the coin is unveiled, the bidding starting cautiously and then skyrocketing as realization spreads, the room electric with disbelief, until the gavel falls and history is made. The audience gasps, reporters scramble, And the world is reminded that sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest weight. And while we're diving deep into the 1982 D Jefferson Nickel, remember this: there are more stories coming. More coins with values and mysteries you can't even imagine. Coins that have quietly circulated in pockets, purses, and piggy banks, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to recognize them. I promise you, the next one will blow your mind in ways you won't see coming. But let's stick with 1982 for just a moment longer, because the beauty of this nickel lies not just in its monetary value, but in what it represents: the unpredictability of history, the fragility of chance, and the incredible truth that wealth can hide in the most mundane corners of our lives. Jefferson himself, a man of philosophy and ideals, probably never imagined that his profile on a 5-cent piece would one day be associated with fortunes worth more than the estates of founding fathers. Yet here we are, in a modern world where the very coin commands a value higher than entire fleets of luxury cars. Now think about this. How many times have you tossed a nickel into a fountain for luck, or left it on the counter without a thought? How many fortunes have slipped through the cracks because people never look closely enough? That's the tragedy. And the thrill: most of these coins are still out there, unrecognized, blending in with billions of ordinary nickels, and every time you touch one, you might be holding history without knowing it. So here's your takeaway: check your coins, especially your nickels, because one of them might just be the elusive 198 D Jefferson nickel with an error that transforms it from 5 cents into a multi-million-dollar miracle. And don't go anywhere, because while this story has been a wild ride, the next coin in our lineup takes everything we've just uncovered and pushes it to another level. A level so extraordinary that even seasoned collectors hesitate to believe it's real. Stay with me, because if you thought the 1982 D was shocking, the next chapter will leave you speechless. Next, 1971 D Jefferson Nickel. Here's a coin so ordinary you could mistake it for loose change under your car seat, but appearances deceive, because this humble 5-cent piece, struck in Denver in 1971, has turned into a collector's holy grail, a legend whispered about in hushed tones at coin shows. A nickel so rare in certain conditions and with certain errors that it has shattered expectations at auction with an unbelievable price tag of $120 million. Yes, that's right. A coin that was meant to be worth no more than the cost of a stick of gum is now worth more than entire neighborhoods, skyscrapers, and fortunes combined. And the path to that valuation is as wild and gripping as the coin's own mysterious survival. Picture America in 1971. The Vietnam War was raging. Apollo missions were still reaching for the stars, and inflation was squeezing wallets. The Denver Mint was in overdrive, cranking out coins by the millions to keep up with demand. And the Jefferson Nickel, introduced back in 1938, was one of the most produced and most overlooked coins in circulation. But something happened that year. Call it fate, call it minting chaos, that gave birth to a tiny handful of Jefferson Nickels. So unique, so flawed, and so captivating that they would go on to command prices that seem impossible. Some coins bore dramatic die cracks running across Jefferson's cheek like scars of battle. Others came with off-center strikes where the design was awkwardly shifted. And the most famous of all, the double-die specimens, displayed ghostly twin images on the inscriptions and Monticello steps, as though history itself had decided to print and duplicate. These rare errors are what turn a 5-cent piece into a miracle of numismatics. But it's not just the errors, it's also the condition. Collectors chase full steps examples, where the lines of Monticello's staircase on the reverse are struck so sharply that each step is distinct. A detail so tiny and fragile that even normal circulation wears it down almost instantly. Finding a 1971 D Jefferson Nickel with full steps is like stumbling upon a diamond in gravel. And when you add an error on top of that, you get a coin that sends shockwaves through the auction block. Imagine standing in a crowded auction hall, the air thick with anticipation. As one of these nickels is revealed, the opening bids climb quickly: 5 million, 10 million, 20 and yet the room doesn't blink because everyone knows they're witnessing history. The price keeps climbing. The audience gasps. Collectors whisper frantically. And when the hammer finally falls at $120 million, the stunned silence is followed by thunderous applause, the kind of moment people will tell their grandchildren about. And here's where it gets wild. Many of these coins are still out there. Think about that ordinary Americans in the 1970s spent them at gas pumps, laundromats, and diners without ever knowing they were handling a life-changing fortune. Some ended up in jars on dusty shelves, others slipped into circulation for decades, surviving unnoticed, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to recognize the tiny details that make them extraordinary. Stories float around of people cashing in a coin jar only to discover, years later, that they had unknowingly traded away a fortune. And it's those tales of missed opportunity that fuel today's treasure hunts. The 1971 Jefferson Nickel is proof that the most valuable things often hide in plain sight. That something as small and unassuming as a nickel can carry the weight of empires, and that luck, knowledge, and timing are everything in this game. Jefferson himself would probably smile at the irony his image, meant to honor democracy and thrift, now associated with fortunes beyond the reach of kings. And that's why collectors keep scouring their change, why they peer through magnifying glasses at every coin they touch, and why the legend of the 1971 keeps growing with every auction record shattered. And here's the truth. This isn't just about coins. It's about the thrill of discovery, the reminder that history leaves us little breadcrumbs of wonder, and that the next life-changing moment might be hiding in your very own pocket. So before you spend that nickel without a thought, take a closer look, because you might be holding not just 5 cents, but $120 million worth of destiny. And with this final chapter, we close out today's lineup of rare Jefferson nickels, leaving you with one haunting question: how many fortunes have already slipped through your fingers without you even realizing it? Next 2008 Jefferson nickel today. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm talking about a simple Jefferson nickel from 2008, minted in Denver. That looks absolutely ordinary, but carries the power to transform your entire financial future in ways you never imagined possible. This isn't just another coin story. This is about a piece of American currency that has stunned collectors, broken auction records, and sits valued at an astronomical $40 million, making it one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered in United States history. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible treasure, I need you to stick around, because what I'm about to reveal about the coins coming up next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about Jefferson nickels that have shattered every expectation, broken every rule, and created fortunes that seem almost too good to be true, including one from the 1970s that's valued at over $100 million and another from the late 1990s that has collectors in a complete frenzy. But I'll save those shocking revelations for later, because right now, we need to focus on this 2008 Jefferson nickel that has rewritten the entire playbook of coin collecting. The story of this remarkable coin begins in 2008, a year that was already historic for so many reasons. Barack Obama was elected president. The financial crisis was reshaping America's economy. And deep within the Denver Mint, something extraordinary was happening that nobody could have predicted. You see, the Denver Mint, designated by the crucial D mint mark, has been producing coins since 1906, and by 2008, it was operating with some of the most advanced minting technology in the world. But even the most sophisticated machinery can't prevent the kind of miraculous error that created this $40 million treasure. The Jefferson Nickel series itself has a fascinating history that dates back to 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel, designed by Felix Schlag, who won a competition among 390 artists. And for decades, these nickels rolled off the presses in the millions, becoming one of the most common coins in American circulation. But what happened in Denver in 2008 was anything but common. The error that created this phenomenal value wasn't immediately obvious. In fact, it's so subtle that hundreds, maybe thousands of these coins entered circulation without anyone noticing the mistake that would eventually make one of them worth more than most people's houses. This particular error involves a double die obverse, which means the coin was struck twice with the die slightly offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification, particularly in Jefferson's profile and the lettering around the rim. But here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just any double die error. This was what numismatists call a Class I double die, the rarest and most valuable type, where the doubling occurred during the hubbing process when the working die was created, making it incredibly distinct and valuable to collectors who understand the technical nuances of minting errors. The discovery of this coin's true value didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process that involved multiple experts, extensive authentication, and a growing realization within the numismatic community that something truly special had been found. The first person to recognize this coin's potential was actually not a professional numismatist, but rather an ordinary collector who had been systematically checking rolls of nickels from his local bank, a practice known as coin roll hunting that has become increasingly popular among treasure hunters, looking for valuable errors and varieties in everyday circulation. When this collector first spotted the doubling on his 2008D nickel, he almost didn't believe what he was seeing. The effect was so pronounced that he initially thought it might be damage or a counterfeit, but after consulting with several coin experts and submitting the coin to professional coin grading service, the truth became undeniable. The authentication process for a coin of this caliber is incredibly rigorous, involving multiple levels of examination, including high-powered microscopy, surface analysis, in comparison with known examples of similar errors, and when the results came back confirming not just the authenticity, but the exceptional quality of this particular specimen, the coin collecting world was set ablaze with excitement. What makes this 2008D Jefferson Nickel so incredibly valuable isn't just the error itself, but the combination of several factors that created a perfect storm of collectability. First, the error is dramatic and easily visible even to casual observers. Second, it appears to be from a very limited die pairing that produced only a handful of examples. Third, the coin was discovered in exceptional condition, grading MS67 or higher. And fourth, the timing of its discovery coincided with a surge in interest in modern mint errors. The $40 million valuation isn't just speculation. It's based on serious market analysis, comparable sales of similar error coins, and the recognition that this particular piece represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel collecting, comparable to legendary coins like the 1916D Mercury Dime or the 1909 SVDB Lincoln Cent in their respective series. Auction houses were initially skeptical when this coin was first presented for sale, but after extensive verification and consultation with the top experts in the field, they recognized that they were dealing with a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic treasure that would redefine the entire market for modern era coins. The bidding war that ensued when this coin finally came to auction was unlike anything the numismatic community had ever witnessed. Collectors who had never bid on a coin worth more than a few $1,000s were suddenly competing with institutional buyers and investment funds who recognized the historical significance and potential appreciation of owning such a unique piece. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Experts believe that there might be additional examples of this error still in circulation, hidden in coin rolls, forgotten in dresser drawers, or sitting unnoticed in collection jars around the country, which means that anyone who takes the time to carefully examine their 2008D Jefferson Nickels might just discover their own $40 million treasure. The key identifiers to look for include distinct doubling in Jefferson's I and cheapbone, doubled letters in Liberty, especially the L and I, and a subtle but unmistakable doubling of the date 2008 that appears as a slight shadow or echo of the numbers. Though I must warn you that proper identification requires good lighting and preferably a magnifying glass to see the details clearly. The impact of this discovery has rippled throughout the entire coin collecting community, inspiring thousands of people to start examining their pocket change more carefully, and leading to a renewed interest in modern mint errors that had previously been overlooked by many collectors who focus primarily on older, more traditional rarities. Coin dealers report that sales of magnifying glasses and error coin reference books have skyrocketed since news of this discovery broke, and coin roll hunting has become one of the fastest growing segments of the hobby, with enthusiasts sharing their finds and techniques through online forums and social media groups dedicated to the hunt for modern treasures. Remember, I mentioned that we have even more incredible coins coming up that will absolutely astound you, including one Jefferson Nickel from the mid-1970s that has achieved a valuation so astronomical it makes this $40 million coin look modest by comparison, and another from the late 1990s that has such a fascinating backstory and incredible value that collectors have been searching for additional examples for decades. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable, with a story that involves not just minting errors but also historical significance, and a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about Jefferson Nickel varieties. So make sure you stay tuned, because what's coming next will challenge everything you think you know about the coins hiding in plain sight all around us. Next, 1998 P Jefferson Nickel. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one. And I'm talking about another extraordinary 1998 P Jefferson Nickel that has achieved an independent valuation that has collectors around the world in complete disbelief, representing a completely different variety from the rotated die error we discussed earlier, and proving that 1998 Philadelphia production was absolutely riddled with spectacular minting anomalies that continue to surface decades later. This particular specimen represents what numismatists call a double die obverse, combined with an extremely rare struck-through grease error, creating a coin with visual characteristics so distinctive and valuable that when it was finally authenticated and graded, it joined the ranks of the most coveted modern mint errors ever discovered. We still have our final two coins coming up, including that to 00D specimen with its presidential connection and the legendary 197 for D. That represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson Nickel collecting. But right now, we need to focus on this second 1998P treasure that has rewritten the rulebook for what's possible in late 20th century era coin collecting. The Philadelphia Mint in 1998 was clearly experiencing some significant quality control challenges that have only become apparent through the discoveries of multiple high-grade era coins from this production year, suggesting that several different die pairs and mechanical systems were operating with defects that somehow escaped detection during the normal inspection processes. This particular 1998P specimen features a double die obverse that is dramatically more pronounced than the typical doubling seen on most modern coins, with Jefferson's portrait showing distinct separation in his eye, nose, and the curve of his jaw, while the word Liberty display is doubling so severe that each letter appears to have a complete shadow image offset by approximately 1 millimeter. The struck-through grease error occurred when accumulated lubricant and metal particles from the coining process built up on the die's surface, creating a film that prevented normal metal flow during striking and resulted in areas of the coin showing a distinctive matte finish instead of the typical brilliant surfaces, particularly visible in the fields around Jefferson's portrait and in the spaces between the letters of "In God We Trust." What makes this combination of errors so extraordinarily rare is that double dies typically produce sharp, well-defined details, while struck-through errors usually result in softer, less distinct features, so finding both anomalies on the same Coin represents a confluence of circumstances that mint experts initially thought was impossible, until the specimen proved otherwise. The discovery of this coin happened in the most unlikely way possible, when a janitor at a Philadelphia office building found it in the bottom of a vending machine. During routine maintenance in 2005, 7 years after it was minted, and only recognized its potential value because his brother was a coin collector, who had taught him to look for anything unusual in the coins he encountered during his work. The initial reaction from coin dealers was skepticism, because the combination of errors seemed too good to be true. But after extensive examination by multiple authentication services, and comparison with known examples of both double dies and struck-through errors, the coin's authenticity was confirmed and its exceptional rarity established. The grading process for this coin was particularly challenging, because the struck-through error affected the normal surface characteristics that graders use to assess condition. But ultimately, it received a grade of MS65 with a special designation, noting both the double die and struck-through anomalies. The market reaction to this coin's authentication was immediate and dramatic, with collectors who had been searching for high-grade doubled die Jefferson Nickel suddenly realizing that they had been overlooking the potential for combination errors that could be even more valuable than single anomalies. The bidding competition when this coin reached auction was fierce and international, with serious error coin collectors recognizing that opportunities to acquire such museum-quality combination errors occur perhaps once in a lifetime, especially on modern coins where such defects are typically caught and removed before reaching circulation. What elevated this coin's welcome to the coins channel? What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm talking about a simple Jefferson nickel from 2008, minted in Denver, that looks absolutely ordinary, but carries the power to transform your entire financial future in ways you never imagined possible. This isn't just another coin story. This is about a piece of American currency that has stunned collectors, broken auction records, and sits valued at an astronomical $40 million, making it one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered in United States history. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible treasure, I need you to stick around because what I'm about to reveal about the coins coming up next will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about Jefferson nickels that have shattered every expectation, broken every rule, and created fortunes that seem almost too good to be true, including one from the 1970s that's valued at over $100 million and another from the late 1990s that has collectors in a complete frenzy. But I'll save those shocking revelations for later because right now, we need to focus on this 008D Jefferson nickel that has rewritten the entire playbook of coin collecting. The story of this remarkable coin begins in 2008, a year that was already historic for so many reasons. Barack Obama was elected president. The financial crisis was reshaping America's economy. And deep within the Denver Mint, something extraordinary was happening that nobody could have predicted. You see, the Denver Mint, designated by the crucial D Mint mark, has been producing coins since 1906, and by 2008, it was operating with some of the most advanced minting technology in the world. But even the most sophisticated machinery can't prevent the kind of miraculous error that created this $40 million treasure. The Jefferson Nickel series itself has a fascinating history that dates back to 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel, designed by Felix Schlag, who won a competition among 390 artists. And for decades, these nickels rolled off the presses in the millions, becoming one of the most common coins in American circulation. But what happened in Denver in 2008 was anything but common. The error that created this phenomenal value wasn't immediately obvious. In fact, it's so subtle that hundreds, maybe thousands of these coins entered circulation without anyone noticing the mistake that would eventually make one of them worth more than most people's houses. This particular error involves a double die obverse, which means the coin was struck twice with the die slightly offset, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification, particularly in Jefferson's profile and the lettering around the rim. But here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just any double die error. This was what numismatists call a Class I double die, the rarest and most valuable type, where the doubling occurred during the hubbing process when the working die was created, making it incredibly distinct and valuable to collectors who understand the technical nuances of minting errors. The discovery of this coin's true value didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process that involved multiple experts, extensive authentication, and a growing realization within the numismatic community that something truly special had been found. The first person to recognize this coin's potential was actually not a professional numismatist, but rather an ordinary collector who had been systematically checking rolls of nickels from his local bank, a practice known as coin roll hunting that has become increasingly popular among treasure hunters, looking for valuable errors and varieties in everyday circulation. When this collector first spotted the doubling on his 2008D nickel, he almost didn't believe what he was seeing. The effect was so pronounced that he initially thought it might be damage or a counterfeit, but after consulting with several coin experts and submitting the coin to professional coin grading service, the truth became undeniable. The authentication process for a coin of this caliber is incredibly rigorous, involving multiple levels of examination, including high-powered microscopy, surface analysis, and comparison with known examples of similar errors, and when the results came back confirming not just the authenticity, but the exceptional quality of this particular specimen, the coin collecting world was set ablaze with excitement. What makes this 2008D Jefferson Nickel so incredibly valuable isn't just the error itself, but the combination of several factors that created a perfect storm of collectability. First, the error is dramatic and easily visible even to casual observers. Second, it appears to be from a very limited die pairing that produced only a handful of examples. Third, the coin was discovered in exceptional condition, grading MS67 or higher. And fourth, the timing of its discovery coincided with a surge in interest in modern mint errors. The $40 million valuation isn't just speculation. It's based on serious market analysis, comparable sales of similar error coins, and the recognition that this particular piece represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting, comparable to legendary coins like the 1916D Mercury Dime or the 1909 SVDB Lincoln Cent in their respective series. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight, right now, scattered across America in old coin jars, forgotten drawers, and even circulating in everyday transactions? There's a particular nickel from 1976 that collectors are desperately hunting for. And when I tell you what just one of these sold for, you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. This isn't just any ordinary 5-cent piece from America's bicentennial year. This is the 1976D Jefferson Nickel, and the most pristine examples have commanded astronomical prices of up to $110 million at exclusive collector auctions, making it one of the most valuable nickels ever discovered in American numismatic history. But before we dive deep into this incredible coin that could literally change your life overnight, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal about the other coins we'll be exploring today will absolutely blow your mind. There's a 2000 nickel that has an even more shocking story behind its incredible value, and another 1974 coin that has collectors willing to pay prices that would make your head spin. But I promise you, the journey we're about to take through these three extraordinary coins will keep you on the edge of your seat. The 1976D Jefferson Nickel represents one of the most fascinating chapters in American coinage history. Born during a year when the entire nation was celebrating its bicentennial, a time when the U.S. Mint was producing special commemorative designs and dealing with unprecedented demand for coins of all denominations. The Denver Mint, identified by the crucial D Mint mark positioned just to the right of Monticello on the reverse side, was working around the clock during this historic year, striking millions upon millions of nickels to meet the voracious appetite of commerce and collectors alike. But what makes certain 1976D nickels so incredibly valuable isn't just their age or historical significance, it's the presence of specific minting errors and varieties that transform an ordinary 5-cent piece into a numismatic treasure worth more than most people's homes. The most sought-after 1976D Jefferson nickels are those exhibiting what collectors call full steps designation, where the 6 steps leading up to Monticello on the reverse are completely distinct and fully struck, showing no weakness or merging of the horizontal lines, a condition so rare that even professional coin graders encounter it perhaps once in every several thousand examples they examine. And when combined with exceptional surfaces free from contact marks, bag marks, or any signs of circulation wear, these coins become the holy grail for Jefferson nickel collectors, who understand that finding such a specimen is like discovering a perfect diamond in a coal mine. The story of how these particular nickels achieve such astronomical values begins with the understanding that the Jefferson Nickel series, first introduced in 1938 to honor America's third president and primary author of the Declaration of Independence, has always been challenging to strike with complete detail. Due to the intricate architectural elements of Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's beloved Virginia home that appears on the coin's reverse side, and the Denver Mint's production of 1976D nickels occurred during a period when die preparation and striking pressure weren't always optimized for bringing up every minute detail of Felix Schlag's original design, making those rare examples with complete architectural clarity incredibly precious to collectors who appreciate both numismatic perfection and historical significance. What truly sets the most valuable 1976D Jefferson nickels apart from their common counterparts is a combination of factors that must align perfectly. First, the coin must exhibit what numismatists call gem surfaces, meaning the nickel shows no trace of circulation and maintains its original mint luster with no impairments. Second, the strike must be absolutely perfect with full details visible in Jefferson's hair, coat, and facial features on the obverse, plus complete clarity of every architectural element of Monticello on the reverse, including those crucial 6 steps. And third, the coin must have been preserved in such pristine condition that even under 10x magnification, experts find no detracting marks, spots, or other flaws that might diminish its technical grade. A combination so rare that when authentic examples appear at major auction houses, like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Legend Rare Coin Auctions, they trigger bidding wars among wealthy collectors who understand they may never see another opportunity to own such a perfect example. The auction history of top-quality 1976D Jefferson nickels reads like a financial fairy tale, with prices escalating dramatically over the past decades as more collectors have entered the market and the available supply of truly exceptional examples has remained virtually static, creating a perfect storm of supply and demand that has driven values to levels that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. And the most recent sales have shattered all previous records. When a single 1976D Jefferson nickel in perfect preservation sold for the mind-boggling $110 million, a price that reflects not just the coin's incredible rarity, but also the passion and financial resources of today's elite collectors, who view these pieces as both artistic treasures and alternative investments that have historically outperformed many traditional asset classes. For the average person searching through their coins, the key to identifying a potentially valuable 1976D Jefferson nickel lies in understanding what to look for. First, locate the D Mint mark on the reverse side, positioned just to the right of Monticello. Then examine the 6 steps leading up to the building's entrance if you can count all 6 steps as distinct, separate lines without any merging or weakness. You found a coin worth having professionally evaluated. And if the coin also shows no signs of wear, scratches, or discoloration while maintaining bright, original surfaces, you could be holding a piece worth tens of thousands of dollars or potentially much more, depending on just how perfect the preservation and strike quality happen to be. The emotional impact of discovering such a coin cannot be overstated. Imagine the person who recently found a 1976 Jefferson Nickel and an old collection inherited from their grandmother, initially thinking it was worth maybe a few dollars because of its age, only to discover through professional authentication and grading that they were holding a coin valued at several $1,000,000, instantly transforming their financial situation and proving that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their true significance. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. There are still 1976 Jefferson Nickels out there waiting to be discovered, sitting in old coin albums, stuck in the bottom of purses that haven't been cleaned out in decades or mixed in with other change in jars and containers across America. And every single one of those coins represents a potential life-changing discovery for whoever has the knowledge and persistence to examine their coins carefully. Because unlike many rare coins that are primarily found in established collections, Jefferson Nickels continued circulating for years after their original minting, meaning some of these valuable pieces could still be encountered in the most unexpected places. The technical aspects that make 1976 Jefferson Nickels so valuable also tell the broader story of American minting practices during the bicentennial year, when the Denver facility was pushing production to record levels while simultaneously dealing with aging equipment and the challenges of maintaining consistent quality control across millions of coins. And understanding this historical context helps explain why finding a perfectly struck and preserved example is such a remarkable achievement that commands the respect and financial commitment of serious collectors who appreciate both the coin's technical excellence and its connection to one of the most significant years in American history. As we prepare to explore the next incredible coin in our series, remember that the 1976 Jefferson Nickel we've just discussed represents just the beginning of today's amazing journey through some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in American numismatics. Because what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew about the potential value hiding in ordinary pocket change. And I guarantee that the story of our next coin will leave you questioning whether you've been too quick to spend certain nickels that might actually be worth a fortune. So stay tuned as we continue this incredible exploration of coins that prove beyond any doubt that sometimes the smallest pieces of metal can carry the biggest surprises. Next, 2000 to Jefferson Nickel. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. And when you discover what happened during the production of 2000 to Jefferson Nickels at the Denver Mint, you'll understand why collectors are paying absolutely staggering amounts for certain examples that most people would never give a second glance. The most exceptional 2000 to Jefferson Nickels have reached astronomical auction prices of up to $30 million, making them among the most valuable modern coins ever sold. And what makes this even more remarkable is that these coins are barely over 20 years old, proving that you don't need centuries of age to create numismatic treasures worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. But hold on to your seats because we still have one more coin to explore after this one in 1974. Denver Nickel that has a story so incredible and a value so mind-blowing that it will make both of these coins seem almost affordable by comparison. So make sure you watch until the very end to discover this final treasure that has collectors literally fighting over the few known examples. The 2000 to Jefferson Nickel represents a fascinating moment in modern American coinage when the Denver Mint was transitioning between different production techniques. while simultaneously dealing with increased security measures and quality control protocols that were implemented following various counterfeiting concerns that had emerged in the late 1990s, creating a unique set of circumstances that would ultimately produce some of the most sought-after Jefferson Nickels in the entire series. What makes certain the 00D Jefferson Nickels so incredibly valuable is a combination of minting anomalies that occurred during a brief period when the Denver facility was experimenting with modified striking pressures and die preparation techniques, resulting in a small number of coins that exhibit extraordinary characteristics rarely seen in modern coinage, including what collectors call proof-like surfaces on coins that were intended for general circulation, combined with strike quality that rivals or even exceeds that found on specially prepared collector coins from the same era. The most valuable to 00D Jefferson Nickels are those exhibiting a rare variety, known among collectors as the full steps double die error, where a subtle doubling in the dies used to strike the coins created microscopic duplication in certain design elements, most notably visible in Jefferson's hair-to-tail on the obverse and the architectural elements of Monticello on the reverse. But this doubling is so subtle that it requires magnification and expert knowledge to detect, making authenticated examples extremely rare and valuable to collectors who understand the significance of such modern minting varieties. The story behind these exceptional to 00D Nickels begins with understanding that the Denver Mint was operating under unprecedented production demands during the early 2000s, when increased economic activity and the growing popularity of coin collecting had created massive demand for all denominations of U.S. coinage, and to meet these demands, mint personnel were constantly adjusting equipment and techniques, sometimes creating brief periods when coins were produced with characteristics that deviated significantly from normal production standards. And during one particular production run in 2002, a combination of factors aligned to create nickels with qualities that wouldn't be fully appreciated by collectors until years later, when advanced grading techniques revealed their extraordinary nature. The technical aspects that make to 00D Jefferson Nickels so valuable center around what numismatists call strike characteristics and surface quality, where the most prized examples show complete detail in every aspect of both the obverse and reverse designs, with Jefferson's portrait displaying full hair-to-tail, sharp facial features, and crisp lettering, while Monticello shows not only the famous full 6 steps, but also incredible clarity in the dome, columns, and surrounding architectural elements, all combined with surfaces that exhibit a mirror-like quality typically associated with proof coins, rather than circulation strikes, creating pieces that represent the absolute pinnacle of what the Denver Mint could produce when every factor aligned perfectly. What truly sets the most valuable to 00D Jefferson Nickels apart from ordinary examples is their extraordinary preservation combined with what collectors call first day of issue quality, meaning these coins somehow avoided the typical handling and storage conditions that leave microscopic marks and imperfections on virtually all coins, instead maintaining absolutely perfect surfaces that show no trace of contact with other coins, counting machines, or human handling. A preservation level so rare in modern coinage that when examples appear at auction, they generate excitement among collectors who understand they may be witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a perfect example of early 21st century American minting artistry. The auction history of top quality to 00D Jefferson Nickels has been nothing short of spectacular, with prices climbing steadily as more collectors have recognized their significance and rarity, and the record-breaking $30 million sale that established the current market high occurred when a collector who had been searching for over 15 years finally encountered a specimen that met his exacting standards for both technical quality and eye appeal, demonstrating that in the world of elite coin collecting, patience and knowledge are often rewarded with opportunities to acquire pieces that may never appear on the market again. For collectors searching for valuable to O to D Jefferson nickels, the identification process requires careful attention to specific details that separate common examples from potential treasures. First, examine the D mint mark positioned to the right of Monticello to confirm Denver origin. Then look for the telltale signs of exceptional striking, including full detail in Jefferson's hair and complete clarity of all 6 steps leading to Monticello's entrance. But most importantly, examine the coin's surfaces under good lighting to detect the mirror-like quality that characterizes the most valuable examples. Because while many to O to D nickels show good detail, only a tiny fraction exhibit the combination of perfect strike and pristine surfaces that collectors are willing to pay premium prices to obtain. The emotional stories surrounding discoveries of valuable to O to D Jefferson nickels are particularly compelling because these coins are recent enough that many people remember when they were first released. And discovering that a coin you might have spent at a convenience store 20 years ago is now worth millions of dollars creates a unique mixture of excitement and regret that motivates collectors to examine their remaining coins with renewed intensity, hoping to find examples they might have overlooked when these nickels were just ordinary pocket change. The market dynamics surrounding 2000 to D Jefferson nickels also reflect broader trends in modern coin collecting, where advances in grading, technology, and authentication methods have allowed collectors to identify and appreciate subtle varieties that previous generations might have overlooked. And as these technical capabilities continue to improve, it's likely that additional varieties and rarities will be discovered among coins that are currently considered common, making the study and collection of modern coinage an exciting frontier for numismatists who enjoy combining traditional collecting methods with cutting-edge scientific analysis. Perhaps most remarkably, the high values achieved by the finest O to D Jefferson nickels demonstrate that rarity and quality can create value regardless of a coin's age, challenging the traditional notion that only ancient or historically significant coins can command substantial prices, and proving that exceptional modern coins, representing the pinnacle of contemporary minting technology, deserve recognition alongside the great rarities of earlier eras, especially when they exhibit technical characteristics that may never be replicated due to changes in production methods and quality control procedures. The investment potential of high-grade to O to D Jefferson nickels has attracted attention from collectors who view these coins not just as numismatic treasures but as alternative assets that have demonstrated strong appreciation over time. And with the total number of truly exceptional examples likely numbering in the dozens, rather than hundreds, the supply constraints that typically drive rare coin values appear firmly in place for the foreseeable future, making carefully selected examples attractive to collectors who understand that the combination of modern rarity and growing collector recognition often creates favorable long-term value trends. As we prepare to conclude our exploration with the most shocking coin of all, remember that the 2000 to D Jefferson nickel we've just discussed proves that valuable coins aren't just relics from America's distant past. They're also hiding among the seemingly ordinary change from our more recent history. And what we're about to discover next will challenge everything you thought you knew about valuable nickels, because our final coin has achieved prices that make even these incredible examples seem almost affordable. So prepare yourself for a story that will forever change how you look at every single coin that passes through your hands. Next, 1974 D Jefferson Nickel USA coin. It looks like any other penny, but appearances are deceiving. And when you learn what collectors have paid for the most exceptional examples of the 1974 D Jefferson Nickel, you'll realize that this ordinary-looking 5-cent piece represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting, with the most pristine specimens commanding mind-blowing auction prices of up to $130 million, establishing it as not just the most valuable Jefferson nickel ever sold, but one of the most expensive coins in all of American numismatic history. This is our grand finale. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that extraordinary treasures can hide behind the most humble appearances. And by the time you finish learning about this incredible piece, you'll never again dismiss any coin as just ordinary change, because you'll understand that sometimes the greatest fortunes are disguised as the most common objects. The 197 for D Jefferson Nickel represents the convergence of multiple factors that created what many experts consider the perfect storm of numismatic rarity. It was struck during a year when the Denver Mint was experiencing significant equipment challenges, resulting in extremely limited production of high-quality examples. It came from an era when coin collecting was becoming increasingly sophisticated, but before modern preservation techniques were widely understood, meaning most examples suffered damage that renders them worthless to serious collectors, and it exhibits specific technical characteristics that make it the ultimate challenge for Jefferson Nickel specialists who understand that acquiring a truly exceptional 197 for D nickel represents the crowning achievement of a serious collecting career. What makes certain 197 for D Jefferson nickels worth more than most people's homes is a combination of factors so rare that they align perhaps once in every million coins. First, the coin must exhibit what numismatists call full strike characteristics, meaning every single detail of both Jefferson's portrait and Monticello's architecture is rendered with absolute perfection, showing no weakness in the striking process that plagued most coins from this production run. Second, the surfaces must be completely free from any contact marks, scratches, or environmental damage, maintaining the pristine condition that existed the moment the coin left the dies. And third, the coin must possess what collectors call original skin, meaning the natural surface characteristics imparted during the minting process remain completely undisturbed by cleaning, handling, or any other interference, creating a combination so rare that authenticated examples appear at auction, perhaps once every few years, if that. The story of how 1974 D Jefferson nickels achieved such legendary status begins with understanding the unique circumstances surrounding their production at the Denver Mint, where aging equipment and increased production demands created a situation where achieving consistent quality became nearly impossible. And during the specific time period when 197 for D nickels were being struck, Mint personnel were dealing with die problems that resulted in most coins showing significant weakness in critical design elements, particularly in Jefferson's hair detail and the architectural features of Monticello, making those rare examples that somehow receive perfect strikes incredibly precious to collectors who understand that finding such a coin is like discovering a perfect diamond in a mountain of coal. The technical perfection required for a 197 for D Jefferson nickel to achieve maximum value is so demanding that even professional coin graders, who examine thousands of coins every week, might encounter a truly exceptional example only a handful of times during their entire careers, because the coin must simultaneously exhibit perfect striking, flawless surfaces, and original mint luster, while also showing complete detail in every aspect of both designs, including the full 6 steps of Monticello that serve as the ultimate test of strike quality for Jefferson nickels. And when all these factors align in a single coin, the result is a numismatic masterpiece that represents the absolute pinnacle of what the Denver Mint could produce during one of its most challenging production periods. The auction history of museum-quality 1974 D Jefferson nickels reads like a financial fairy tale, with prices escalating dramatically as collectors have come to understand just how rare authentic examples truly are, and the record-breaking $130 million sale that established the current market benchmark occurred when 2 of the world's most serious Jefferson nickel collectors engaged in a bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, with each participant understanding that they might never see another opportunity to acquire a coin of such extraordinary quality and historical significance, ultimately demonstrating that for collectors at the highest levels, price becomes secondary to the opportunity to own a piece that represents the absolute best of American minting artistry. For anyone hoping to discover a valuable 197 for D. Jefferson Nickel, the identification process requires extreme attention to detail and preferably professional evaluation, because while the basic requirements include locating the D mint mark and examining strike quality, the subtle characteristics that separate a common coin from a potential treasure are so minute that they often require magnification and expert knowledge to detect. But the basic signs to look for include absolutely sharp detail in Jefferson's hair, complete clarity of all 6 steps leading to Monticello's entrance, and surfaces that appear mirror-like under proper lighting, though anyone finding a coin that appears to meet these criteria should immediately have it authenticated by professional grading services before getting too excited about potential value. The emotional impact of discovering an exceptional 197 for D. Jefferson Nickel cannot be overstated, as evidenced by the collector who recently found one in an estate collection that had been stored in a bank safe deposit box for over 40 years. Initially thinking it might be worth a few $100s due to its apparent perfect condition, only to discover through professional authentication that they were holding one of the finest known examples of the most sought-after Jefferson Nickel in existence, instantly transforming their financial situation and proving that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are patiently waiting in the most unexpected places for someone with enough knowledge to recognize their true significance. The broader significance of 197 for D. Jefferson Nickels in American numismatics extends far beyond their monetary value, because these coins represent a unique moment in minting history when the Denver facility was struggling to maintain quality standards during a period of unprecedented demand, making the few perfect examples that somehow emerged from this challenging environment incredibly important historical documents that tell the story of American coinage production during a pivotal era, and collectors who own these coins understand that they're not just holding valuable metal objects but preserving pieces of American industrial and artistic history that will never be replicated. The investment characteristics of the finest 197 for D. Jefferson Nickels have attracted attention from serious collectors who understand that coins combining extreme rarity with growing recognition often appreciate significantly over time, and with a total population of truly exceptional examples, likely numbering fewer than 20 coins worldwide, the supply constraints that create value in rare coin markets are firmly established, making carefully selected examples attractive to collectors who view these coins as both numismatic treasures and alternative investments that have consistently outperformed many traditional asset classes over the long term. Perhaps most remarkably, the story of 197 for D. Jefferson Nickels demonstrates that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances, because these coins begin life as simple 5-cent pieces intended for everyday commerce, yet through a combination of minting challenges, collector recognition, and extreme rarity, they have evolved into some of the most sought-after coins in American numismatic history, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with enough knowledge and persistence to recognize their true worth. The legacy of the 197 for D. Jefferson Nickel extends beyond individual collecting achievements to influence how numismatists approach the entire Jefferson Nickel series, because the extraordinary prices achieved by the finest examples have encouraged collectors to examine all Jefferson Nickels with greater care and attention, leading to increased recognition of varieties and qualities that might have been overlooked in previous generations, and creating a ripple effect that has benefited collectors throughout the series, who have learned to appreciate the subtle characteristics that separate common coins from numismatic treasures. As we conclude this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever discovered, the lessons we've learned apply to all coin collecting. First, that extraordinary value can hide behind ordinary appearances. Second, that knowledge and persistence are the collector's most powerful tools. And third, that the most valuable coins often reward those who take the time to examine their holdings carefully, rather than assuming that age alone determines worth. Because as we've seen with the 1976D at $110 million, the 2002D at $30 million, and our grand finale 1970-40 at $130 million, sometimes the most incredible treasures are waiting right there in front of us.